Hey guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we are going to be discussing A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di
I have ever so slightly changed the angle. Am I a bit too low down? I'm just gonna quickly just shuffle you guys down a bit. That's a bit better. So, I've just ever so slightly changed the angle of my camera in case that's suddenly bothering you, so that I'm a little bit more in the corner, and also so that that window isn't such a problem. Anyway, let's talk about books. So, David Attenborough recently released a new book and documentary, and this is the book that goes with the documentary that you're most likely familiar with, and I really enjoyed it. It had a really big impact on me reading it, and there were so many things I took away from it that I just felt like I really wanted to share my review with you. I have already done a full review over on my blog, which is ozbooksnail.com, so if you follow my blog, excellent. If you don't, I recommend you do for more bookish content, but I received this full review from Penguin Random House. Their imprint that published this was Witness Books, and so they were very, very kind to send me a copy, so a big, big thank you to Penguin for this. So, let's start with, who is David Attenborough? Do I really need to introduce him? If you can hear the dog barking, I apologise. Obviously David Attenborough is pretty damn famous, and if you don't know who he is, then I don't feel it's my place to explain that. I think you should probably just go out and have a watch of his stuff. This book is a testament to how much climate change has happened and impacted our Earth in his lifetime, and it is effectively acting as a witness statement, for what, humanity's greatest crime? You could probably say that. As you can see, I've gone through and I've tabbed heaps of facts, which I will absolutely share some of them with you and tell you a little bit about how the structure of this works. So this actually came out at the very end of September, and yeah, while the documentary is quite hard-hitting, I'm not going to talk too much about the documentary, but basically this is more or less verbatim what is in the documentary, but more. So if you're like me and you really enjoyed it, then I have read and I have watched, and I didn't find it like disastrously repetitive. It obviously shares certain elements, but on the whole I think they're really worth, if you've watched a documentary and you enjoyed it, then I definitely think you should read this just to get a few extra facts. So at the very end there is a page, a section called Notes, and in there is all the footnotes from throughout the book explaining where the research has come from and sort of just backing up all the claims within the book, which is obviously good when you're talking about a science book. So over on Goodreads, this has an average rating of 4.71 stars. At the moment it only has 654 ratings, which is actually very little. I think this is obviously quite a niche book. And I'm not expecting all of you to be interested in this, especially as I usually do talk about his fantasy or historical fiction, but I've been a long time fan of David Attenborough, and this is obviously very relevant and impacts everybody on this planet, so it's really worth the read. This is stunning in its hardback edition without the cover. I actually think this is a really professional looking cover design. I'm actually really impressed by that. It's got a lovely little yellow ribbon on the inside as well, but when I take the cover off, and if you see my book haul, I think I showed it then, it's got a really lovely design, and it's also got David Attenborough's signature just embossed at the bottom here, which I think was a really lovely touch. Some nice green end pages. I feel like as the years go on, I get slowly more and more like obsessed with how books are done. But this does have pictures throughout. Like any good non-fiction book, it's got a couple of sections of pictures of David at various events and doing various things. It's got a couple of those sections, but it also has some black and white drawings, either of diagrams or just of relevant pictures in black and white throughout as well. So what is this about? If you don't know what this is about. If you are familiar with David Attenborough stuff, you'll know that he has done wildlife and nature documentaries throughout the course of his life. He's done Blue Planet, he's done Our Planet, he's done, I can't remember all the names of them, Planet Earth, I can't remember what they're all called. And they usually look at different species, and a lot of his footage is groundbreaking. For the first time things have been caught on film, on camera, and he's worked with a lot of scientists, experts, and very special people, especially some amazing videographers, photographers, you name it, to capture all this stuff, to compile a really, really great pool of knowledge that I think a lot of people my age and older, and probably younger too, we've seen these animals and have the privilege of seeing the animals that he has filmed simply because he's gone out and done it. I'm sure there are other people that have done it now, but like David Attenborough was one of the first people to go out and film these animals. And so I think we owe a lot to him for knowing more about animals in countries we don't live in, etc., etc. But this is a very different tone. This is very much so focused heavily on climate change and is saying that we need to act now and the ways that we do it. The first part of the book, the majority of the book, is talking about how things have declined and how things are not great right now, and then there is a section at the back which talks about things that we're doing right, things that are going well in certain countries, and exemplars that other countries and groups of people could follow to help reverse the impact, and basically a message of hope to say not all is lost yet, but we do need to do things now. So the way that it is structured is it does go through his life. So we start in 1937 and we do have information. So he goes through world population, which was 2.3 billion in 1937, carbon in the atmosphere, and remaining wilderness starting at 66%. As we go through the years, it's basically different sections in his life. These numbers sort of change accordingly, and it's quite a dramatic effect and quite stressful to read, but a really clever way of making us realize that in just one person's lifetime, this is how much humanity has changed the planet. So here are some fun statistics I want to share with you, which I think are very interesting. So some of the things that he talks about, he has this section where he talks about going to the mountain gorillas in Rwanda. And when he went to film them, there was 300, and there are now significantly more since he brought it to like the global community's attention. So there's little stories like that which are really lovely, but we've also got things. So one of the scary statistics is that by the 20th century, we've removed 90% of the large fish from all the oceans of the world. The Arctic sea ice had shrunk by 30% in 30 years. We extract over 80 million tons of seafood from the oceans each year, which has reduced 30% of fish stocks to critical levels. A loss of 90% of insects and spiders living in certain areas. Like, there's just so many... There's just so much. There's so many absolutely terrifying statistics as you go through that are quite heartbreaking to read, but it is very, very informative. I certainly think that this is a worthwhile read. And I guess what I wanted to say today is that I urge you to go and pick this up. So if you've stopped to watch this review and you're still reading it now, then I definitely think you should go and get yourself a copy of the book, or if you can't afford it, because the hardback is a little bit expensive at the moment, at least in Australia, but you have a subscription to Netflix, then I highly recommend that you sit down and watch the documentary. Yes, it is hard-hitting and upsetting, but it is important. If you want to know what you can do to start saving our planet so that we will be able to live here in the next 20 years, then this is really something you need to start caring about and reading about. I have to say, one of the most profound impacts this has had on me is on my diet. There's a lot of talk about just reducing the amount of meat you eat and kind of realizing that, you know what, I can do that. And because vegetarianism is such a widespread thing these days, it's quite easy to make that change and simply take a few meat meals out of your meal plan for the week. And these are things that I've decided to do, as well as it's really piqued my interest in non-fiction books. I have to say, this is the one thing that sort of clicked with me this year. I've been really enjoying books like this, and I've got a list now of other books about climate change that I want to read, because the one thing this made me realize is that I haven't read statistics like that for a really long time, and I don't read statistics like that unless I'm watching probably something done by David Attenborough, or maybe Bear Grylls' newest show on Disney Plus, which is Hostile Planet. And it really made me aware that I'm not making enough of an effort to go and seek out some accurate information. So it's been one of my missions that I'm going to take on, is to read some more non-fiction books specifically about climate change and get the statistics down pat and understand what is going on. So all I can say is that this is worthwhile reading. I think you can tell by the sheer number of notes that I made in this, all of the great information to be gleaned from this. And it is just a wonderful read to follow Attenborough through his life and revisit all the amazing things he's done and to heed his warnings. It is an incredible book, and it's definitely worth reading. So it's a bit of a solemn review really, but all I want to say is that you need to go and pick this up. So I would love to know down in the comments below if you've seen the documentary, or if you have indeed read this yourself, and what you thought about it, because I think it is an incredible read. But other than that, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.